Hi, Farah. Welcome to 11 Questions.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, I want to start by asking, where are you from and where do you live right now?
So I am from Toronto and I live in Toronto. I was born in Greater Toronto area. I've lived there my whole life and I'm still there and I still live in Toronto with my family.
What's the best way for you to start your day?
To start my day, I need my coffee. And I sometimes eat breakfast, sometimes I don't, but I can't do much without my great big latte with lots of milk in the morning. It's funny, I'm a tea drinker over the rest of the day, but first thing in the morning has to be coffee. And I will wake up pretty late because I'm a total night owl. So I'm usually up till like 2, 1, 2, even 3 a.m. So I usually wake up pretty late in the day.
What would you say is the most productive time of the day for you?
It really depends on what I'm doing. If I'm writing, then those night, like between 10 and say 2 a.m. are my best writing time. But if I'm doing other stuff, promo, writing articles and such, then I'm okay working in the afternoon after lunch usually.
If you hear the words happy weekend, what comes to your mind?
Happy weekend. Oh, I love a weekend when I don't really have much to do. I'll play video games, maybe have a afternoon beer with my husband. Before pandemic, we would go and we would, my husband and I are really into craft beer, so we would go to breweries and just sit there and just kind of talk and do a whole bunch of nothing. These days, a happy weekend is really just me on the couch playing video games.
Doesn't sound too bad. Do you watch a lot of TV? And if yes, what's your favorite thing right now?
So I don't watch a lot of TV, but I do watch. I mean, I watch something every day. I try to because it helps me unwind. Lately, we've been really into the Great British Bake Off, and we've been going through watching only about an episode a day. But there's so many seasons that we can keep going this way for a while. But I think we finally just ran out, so we're kind of stuck. But definitely those kind of cooking reality shows I really love.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve. Oh my God, I have a lot. Silly things. Like if you just want to just say like a total silly pet peeve of mine is zippers on sweaters, and I don't know why. I just don't like zippers on sweaters. I don't mind buttons, but no zippers. But bigger pet peeves, I think, as a South Asian woman living in a predominantly white country, city, I think my biggest pet peeve is when people make assumptions about me before they know me. Little things like people assume that I'm not born in Canada, that my parents don't speak English, or things like that. Those kind of assumptions are probably the things that bother me the most.
What are you most proud of in your life?
Probably my books. I kind of started writing a little bit later in life, and it's something that I always, at the back of my head, thought I wanted to do, but didn't have the courage to start. So I didn't start writing until I was 39-ish, and it was only a few years later that my first book was published by a major publisher. So I'm really proud at how quickly I was able to progress in my writing craft. I worked my butt off, but and then to have the recognition of having my book out there in bookstores and such is really exciting.
For how long have you been writing now?
It's been about 5 years where I've been writing. I want to say writing seriously, but I never didn't write seriously. I literally went from not writing at all to it consuming my entire life. That's just the kind of person I am. So I've been
All or
working
nothing.
towards, yeah, I've been working towards publication, like writing intensely, since the day I started writing 5 years ago.
And other than writing, what do you enjoy the most?
I love cooking. I spend a lot of time with my family, and we play video games, we play board games, cooking. I have a ton of hobbies. I can keep going and going and going. I love sewing. I love knitting. Lately, I've been really into hiking. We have a boat. We go kayaking. So
Oh,
I have a,
awesome. There's so
yeah, I
much
do a
going
lot
on.
of things.
If I were to ask you to pick only three books that you can read for your entire life, which ones would you pick?
Okay, so definitely Jane Austen. Like a lot of romance writers, that was really where I discovered my love of romance. So Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, and I would say Jane Austen's Persuasion. I could read over and over again. Another older book that many people might not know is an older Canadian book called The Diviners by Margaret Lawrence, and it's been my favorite book since I was a kid, since I was in my high school years. It is an adult book, And that's one that I can always go back to. It always reminds me of growing up in Canada and the kind of the terrain here, the water, basically what it feels like to be in Canada, and that's a big part of me. So that's one book that I always go back to.
I'll check that out. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah,
Jane
it's
Austen,
very
I have.
Canadian. Yeah, it's a very Canadian book, and it's a bit old and a bit dated now, but it does touch on a lot of the social issues in Canada, racism specifically with the Indigenous population, poverty. It takes place during the Depression and the war, so it's very much of its time, but it's a book that I always love.
And in the end, if you were to pick one interesting life experience that you could share with us today, what would you tell us?
So a couple years ago, my parents are originally from Tanzania. They were both born in Tanzania and grew up there. They moved to Canada when they got married. And a couple years ago, we took a family trip and all went back to Tanzania with my parents, my husband, and my two kids. And I think that was a great experience for me. It wasn't the first time I'd gone to East Africa, but the first time I'd taken my family and with my parents as well. So we were able to go to my mom's hometown and my dad's hometown, which was really neat. I'd never been to their hometowns before. So that was really cool to see the house where they grew up with, the mosque that they got married in, and just all the memories that they would remember. But then at the same time, it's a stunning landscape. It's a beautiful place. We went on a safari. We saw Mount Kilimanjaro. So it was just a really great experience to be able to take my kids on that trip.
That sounds amazing. I wish I get to go one day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous country.
Thank you so much, Farah, for answering all my questions.
No
And
problem. That was fun.